Terrific. Well, thank you everybody for taking the time to join us tonight. We started out, the intent for this is really to, or the intent originally was to go through substantial changes that have come up or may have come up with the new racing rules of sailing for 2021 through 2024. As you may know or may not know, the rules are reviewed and updated every 4 years. So, uh, as it turns out, there are a couple of changes that I think are substantial as they relate to us. And then there's a whole lot of changes that are substantial, but not things that will necessarily impact us so much within our day to day usage or reference to the rules in our MAST racing series. So, um, so we'll talk about some of the changes, at least the ones that impact us the most, and then we'll go into a few other things and try to make this, as Eliz may have already said, but interactive and participant or dependent session with a couple of scenarios that we'll present and talk about whose foul it is, or whose foul it is anyway. So the first one, and we talked about this in a previous meeting a little bit, but the first one is a change to the definition of start and finish. And just as a kind of to get you familiar with what the format will be tonight and what it'll look like, I think, Eliz, you have a polling question probably for this one. So as we go through, you'll see something like this. This one's just an icebreaker, right? But the question out to the group, if hopefully everybody can see it, has this boat crossed the starting line? So the starting signal just went off for this boat's division. Do you think they have crossed the starting line? Are they over early, or are they okay? And on your polling selections, you can answer.
They're coming in.
Okay.
We have about half of our folks.
All right.
All right, we're getting up there, Get your answers in.
And these are anonymous, right, Eliz? So
they are anonymous.
okay. As far as anybody knows, we could actually come back and make jokes about some of the.
That's right. All right, I am ending the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.
All right.
So we had 2 people who said yes, it has crossed, 11 who said no, and 1 who said, huh, what?
Okay. Well, excellent. So this is great. So to the people who said no, this boat has not crossed the starting line, you are correct. That's one of the changes this year. So as you can see in this picture, the anchor is clearly over the starting line at the signal, which previously would have indicated that the boat had started early or was over early. With the changes, oh, I have to do it again. Changes to the racing rules this year. There we go. The only thing that is considered when crossing the line, either for a start or the finish, is the hull of the boat. So it's not the sprit, not an anchor, not a crew's foot that's hiking out hard, spinnaker pole that's projecting out. Any of those things are not considered part of the hull. So those of you who answered no on that one were correct. Those of you who answered yes, glad you're here, because that you were correct last year, and this year that would not be correct. And the one that said huh was me, just for testing. Okay, so as you can see in this picture, the anchor is clearly over the starting line, but that is not considered part of the hull. Actually, the arrow, the red arrow, is pointing to the stem head, or really the furthest forwardmost point of the hull, and that is behind the line. All right. Another rule that has changed a little bit. There was a rule in place previously, but there's been substantial changes, and that's Rule 16.2. It's changing course. Often this one is referred to as the anti-hunting rule. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's basically a statement or a rule to prevent a starboard tack boat from continuing to alter its course and forcing a port tack boat to continue altering its course in order to avoid collision and not cause an incident or result in protest. So what's changed is that this now only applies when boats are on a beat to windward. It does not apply before starting signal. It's important to note. And it does apply when a starboard tack boat bears away, as I was trying to summarize, not when it luffs, right? So if the two boats are on a collision course initially, and port tack boat alters its course to pass to leeward of the starboard tack boat cannot then continue to bear off, right, and force that port tack boat to alter its course again in order to continue avoiding a collision. Um, okay, before we go into our whose line is it anyway, the really fun part, I'm going to jump back on my soapbox for a minute about barging, and just wanted to put this out there. So for everybody that's interested, what is barging? Quite simply, it's putting your nose where it's not supposed to be. Um, and I put this question up. I can't remember, Eliz, if we have a polling question or not. Um,
We do not.
okay, good. There would be too many answers. So so I this was just a challenge really to say, to ask all of you that are listening, if any of you can come up with, the specific part or section or rule that defines barging from the racing rules of sailing. And it's a bit rhetorical because there's not one part or section or rule that defines barging. Okay, barging is encapsulated in a bunch of other rules. But a big thing to understand is there's a section in part two, section C preamble, that states that section C rules don't apply at a starting mark surrounded by navigable water, etc. Um, from the time that boats are approaching the start to the time until they have passed the committee boat or the mark, the starting mark. What's contained in section C, and this is where I think the misunderstanding often comes from, is mark room, room to pass an obstruction, and room to tack in an obstruction. That's to say, a boat that comes in between another boat and the committee boat does not actually have rights under Part 2, Section C, right? They don't have rights to mark room. They don't have the typical rights to room to pass an obstruction, etc. Um, it it presents a very, very dangerous situation. So my next slide here is really just to get people thinking about what would you do. All right, so if you see boat B, the blue boat, um, yelling for room with 8 seconds to go before the starting signal, I ask you to think about what you would do to resolve the situation. Um, and I'll tell you at this point that there really is not any way to resolve the situation. I'm going to go back to that for back to that for a second. Once the boats are in this position, even if let's say S1 wanted to try to give room to allow B to go in there and then protest afterwards, S1 has to play the telephone game, right? If they want to head down, they have to hail S2, and S2 has to hail S3, all of them asking the other one to bear off and provide some room. There's very little time to do this, number one. And number two, as you'll see in the next one, even if they all were to turn down and bear away to try to create room, the way that boats turn and pivot on their keel uh, will just put them all into contact with one another. There really is no way out of this. The only way to stay out of it is to recognize before the situation occurs that that this is a problem, and that you need to bail out and not let it happen. Okay, so this next slide is recognizing a little bit earlier. It's 15 seconds before the starting signal. My timing might be off. It obviously depends on the speed of the boats and the wind speed. Whoops, wrong way. But so, and this would be closer to 8 seconds, right? So now that blue boat, boat B, that was barging formerly, is doing the right thing here by tacking away, turning around, and taking a second level start. Um, whoops. Something I didn't depict in this, which is also an alternative, is to bear off and bear off hard and take the sterns of all those boats that were coming in that have rights over them. But that once you're in that situation, or if you create that situation, it's there's no way out. We're all out here to have fun. The committee boat is not a designated committee boat. It's somebody's boat that wants to go sailing tomorrow. Probably has some other racing in mind. You know, if they're in a boatyard on the hard getting their fiberglass fixed for a couple months, it's a bad situation. And I'll leave it at that. So, any, I have to toggle here. Any questions or anything coming up, Eliz? I'll just pause for a second before moving on.
Not so far.
Okay. I know we talk about it a lot. I'll try to leave it at that. But barging just is, it's a, when in doubt, bail out early. You know, be generous to to everybody, to yourself, to the committee boat, to the rest of the fleet by doing so, and keeping us all safe and available to race again the next Friday. Okay, so another little warm up here before we get into the full game. Oops. I love this one. So hopefully you can see this. We have a wind direction coming directly from the top of your screen. We have both C, B, and A. And the question is, what tack are they on? I should see a polling question. Might have to.
Yep, it's launched.
Okay.
This takes a little more thought. So are folks seeing? Oh, there we go. We're starting to get some answers.
Yeah. Couple seconds to process.
It is a complicated question. So basically what we're asking is what tack are each of the boats on? What tack is A on, B on, C on? Are they all on the same tack? Are they on different tacks? So they're coming in.
Okay.
Let's give them another couple of seconds because this is a thinker.
Yep. So, and I didn't call it out. Hopefully you saw it, but on boat C, there is a note below that saying that there is crew or crew members that are holding the boom over on the port side.
Oh, and I misspelled starboard in one of those, so please forgive the sloppy typing. All right, I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and share the results, and hopefully
All right.
at least had the right answer in one of the questions now that I'm thinking about it. So Jay.
Yes.
What tack is boat A on?
Okay. So boat A is on starboard tack in both positions, both the first position and the second position. I will go into on the next slide a little description of that, but the definition of leeward describes that when going downwind, or to be going downwind, the wind is coming over the transom of your boat. And then there's also sailing by the lee, which is when the wind is actually coming from the same side over the transom, but on the same side of the boat that the boom is on. And as you can see in this case, the boom is on the port side of the boat. And sailing by the lee, as long as that boom is not being held out either by crew or preventer, so it's out there of its own accord, then this boat is still considered to be on starboard tack or on the starboard jibe.
All right, how about boat C? What tack are they
Let's
on?
see. Excellent. So again, the definition of windward and leeward in this is the wind is coming, the side that the wind is coming over, the side of the boat that the wind is coming over. So in this case, the wind is actually coming over the port side of B, even though their boom is held out to the port side, which would, definition of windward is that the wind is, I'm sorry, the definition of leeward, I'll get to it on the next one. I forget. But in this case, because the wind is coming over the port side of this boat, the boat is on port tack, regardless of where their boom is positioned.
And how about B?
So B, this is another great one. So B, the easiest way to think of this is a boat that is head to wind. Um, I should step back for a second. So a boat is always considered either on port tack or starboard tack. Okay, one or the other. Um, in this case, a boat is also always essentially considered when it's head to wind. It is on the same tack as it was before going to head to wind. Okay, so until it crosses the wind and gets to a close hauled position, it's still on its former tack. So B2 is clear, or B1, it's clearly on port. B2, it's starting to head up. It's still on port tack. And B3, it's head to wind, but this boat is still, by definition, on port tack. So what did we have for results there? We had starboard, port, port, right?
Which would be choice number 3. And 3 of our folks got that correct. That was a hard one.
Yep. So hopefully they're not all that hard, but I love that we get everybody thinking on this one. Okay, so we can take just a quick. Whoa, let me go back. Quick moment to look at this. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting behind the views here. Okay. So yep. What I'll do, I'll skip to this one. I'll skip to the actual definition of leeward and windward states, or what it states. So a boat's leeward side is the side that is, or when she is head to wind, was away from the wind. The other side is her windward side. So that is the full definition, and from that you can derive all of the answers that are here. The downwind one, the boat A, is probably the best or a good one to read in understanding the difference between upwind and downwind and how that's interpreted or can be. So I'll pause here for just a second and ask if anybody has questions on this or would like to discuss it a little bit more. The hows or the whys.
Feel free to unmute if you have a question. I think we're good.
All right. Excellent. All right. So now we get into the real fun. Whose foul is it anyway? So the first 2 or 3 that we did there were just kind of warm-ups to get you working and thinking. In this next one, so we have a starting area. This is something that is slightly new this year. It's defined in our sailing instructions. But we have a scenario, right? We have a starting area that's defined that extends about 100 feet out from each starting mark and 150 feet to the non-course side. Now, in this scenario, we have a boat that's not in her starting sequence. It's not racing yet. It's on starboard tack in the starting area. And it's coming head on towards a couple of other boats that are racing that are on port tack. The first of these, both boats make course changes to avoid a collision, and then the port tack boat protests. Whose foul is it? So I think on the polling question, oh, Eliz, you're muted.
I apologize. I put the wrong poll up.
I think it's the wrong color.
Yeah, there we go.
There we
Let's
go.
try that one.
Okay.
There we go. So is it the green boat's foul or is it the red boat's foul? Who's in the wrong?
Black boat.
I'm sorry, black boat. Yeah, the committee boat's fine.
Right. Hopefully they're not involved in this.
Hopefully not. All right, we have about 55%. Oh, 61% of people voted.
All right.
All right. About 15 seconds left to answer the question. It's like starting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ended.
All right.
All right. So we had 0 people said it was the green boat's foul. 11 people said it was a black boat's foul. 1 said neither. It's all good there. And 1 person said they're both at fault and should be given a foul.
All right. So very good, and all understandable answers. But the correct answer in this case, whoops, is there is a rule, Rule 23, that is about interfering with another boat. Rule 23.1: if reasonably possible, a boat not racing shall not interfere with a boat that is racing. And a boat is considered racing from the time of her preparatory starting signal. So in that example, right, the non-racing boat was not in her sequence or starting sequence or within there. And the green boat does have a right to protest. So yes, the foul really in this case is on the black boat. Black boat shouldn't be in there. And if they are, they should do their best to not interfere and steer clear of the boats that are in their starting sequence. Very good. Okay. Bear with me. Let me see.
This is our changing courses one.
Thank you. Okay. So 2 boats, port and starboard, are approaching or are on a crossing path. Whoops. Starboard tacker hails starboard, letting the port tacker know. Port tack acknowledges and starts to bear away. You can see in this depiction that the starboard tack boat also bears away just a tiny bit. And then in position 3, I'm sorry. In position 3, we have the port tack boat has had to bear away again as a result of the starboard tack boat that has also bared away from its original position. The port tack boat yells the protest. Whose foul is it in this instance?
I launched the right one this time.
Excellent. I am going to duck off screen to tie a Taekwondo belt for just a moment.
Excellent. Well, it's a good time to do that while we're answering the questions. So is the green boat at fault or is the red boat making a protest that doesn't count? All right, we've got about 60% of people answering so far. About 15 more seconds to finish up. Well, there's the red boat, the green boat, no boat, or both boats that are at fault here. And here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If I had a horn, I would sound it. And we have 12 people who said the green boat is at fault. Nobody said the red boat was at fault. 2 people said there's no foul. It's all just fine. And nobody said it was both of their fault.
Excellent. Okay. So again, those of you that responded that the green boat was at fault are correct. This is an example of that anti-hunting rule that was mentioned at the beginning, Rule 16.2. So when a right-of-way boat changes course, for one thing, it shall give the other boat room to keep clear. And then the anti-hunting rule. So on a beat to windward, both of these boats were going to windward. When a port deck boat has made a move to keep clear and sailing to pass to leeward or take the transom of the starboard tack boat, the starboard tack boat shall not continue to bear away or bear away more, if as a result that port tack boat has to change their course again in order to continue keeping clear. So, excellent. Congratulations to those of you who answered that one correctly. You were either knew it or were paying attention at the very beginning.
Both are good.
So, our next one, we have a scenario where two boats are within the zone, okay, at a mark. So, the zone, hopefully everybody knows, but if you don't, is defined as 3 boat lengths of the larger of the 2 boats or boats that are involved. So 2 boats are in the zone. One is on starboard tack, one is on port tack. Oops, keep going the wrong way. So port tack boat comes in and is going to pass head to wind and complete their tack. And as they complete their tack, the starboard tack boat has to alter their course above close hauled, above close hauled, to avoid contact with the red boat. Then the starboard tack boat then promptly protests. Whose foul is it here? Where's the pink boat? Why is there no pink boat?
It is kind of pink, isn't it? So is the who's at fault there? Is it the red boat, the green boat, both boats, neither boat? About 30 seconds left to finish. So just in case anybody wondered, the little boats actually do match the boats that you might have received recently in the mail.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun.
Hopefully everybody received those.
So it's the skippers. We should clarify that it's the skippers who received that.
Yep.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. We had 8 people who said it was the red boat who was at fault. 6 people who said the green boat was at fault. Nobody said both. And one person said, it's all good here. Neither one of them did anything wrong.
Right. Very good. So this is great. Interesting to see the split there. In this particular instance, the red boat is the red boat was the one that fouled. When there's a couple of things that are at play here, but rule 18.3 is passing head to wind in the zone, right? So if the mark is to be left to port, and the boat in the zone, I'm sorry, I'm going to try to read through this quickly, but passes head to wind from port to starboard, and the tack is then fetching the mark, which we saw in our example. Whoops. Right, so port tack boat is now making the mark. They're fetching the mark. But in doing so, she shall not cause a boat that's been on starboard tack since entering the zone to sail above close hauled to avoid contact. And she shall give room to that boat if they become overlapped inside. So those of you who said that the red boat fouled are correct. In addition to this, Rule 13, while tacking, just so everybody's clear, when passing head to wind, any boat that's passing head to wind, so as they're tacking, shall keep clear of other boats, right? So whether you are on starboard or on port and tacking to starboard, during that time, rules 10, 11, and 12 don't apply. You need to be sure when tacking and passing head to wind that you are clear of other boats and not fouling them. All right.
But and I think we were talking about this the other day, is that much like barging, you have to be really sure if you're going to make a sort of close call. be really sure that you can make it. If there's a question about whether you can tack and get moving on, get to close haul before that other boat is going to get to where you are when you're crossing them, just maybe make a different choice.
Yep. Good point. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, the biggest thing is really, again, try to see things happening in advance and take preventative steps to ensure that we don't have contact anywhere. Um, we all want to get up and race again the next day, or get up the next morning without any injuries. All right. Um, oh, okay. So at a mark rounding, here's our scenario. We can get there. Whoops. We have two boats that are approaching. First boat reaches the zone. Okay, and at the time that that first boat reaches the zone, the I'll call it the I1 or the inside boat, the green boat, has an overlap. Okay, so at that point, the green boat hails and says, "Hey, we have an overlap. We need mark room." In position two, the black boat has broken the overlap. There is no more overlap as the green boat enters the zone. And then position three, the green boat is reestablished in overlap, and the black boat is not giving room. And actually, in this case, there is contact. Um, both boats protest. Whose foul is it at this mark rounding?
All right. Is the black boat at fault, the green boat at fault? Neither one of them, because that's just racing, or both. I'm going to give you a hint. It's not. That's just racing. That's not it. uh, all right. And then on our Dana made a good point in the chat that it might be nice to give people what else could have you done in this situation when we come upon some things to avoid being the fouled or the fouler. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Here are our results. So 12 people said the black boat is at fault. 3 people said the green boat is at fault. Nobody chose neither. And 1 person said both.
Okay.
I'm going to guess you're the both on a lot of these.
I was not on this one.
All right.
I was not. I'm curious though. Whoops. I didn't see the poll results pop up after that. Was it just me?
Oh, sorry. There we go.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. Yep. So in this case, those of you who selected the black boat as having been the fouler or the one to foul are correct. Okay. So in a mark or at a mark rounding, once an overlap is established, or when that overlap is established at the time of entering the zone, it is determined by the first boat that's entering the zone. As a side note, the zone size, if you will, is determined by the larger of the two boats, the length, so 3 boat lengths of the larger of the 2 boats. But so that overlap is established when the first boat enters the zone. From that point forward, the green boat is entitled to mark room. Whether that overlap is broken, or if a new overlap begins, which in our scenario here, there was an overlap, the overlap was broken, and then a new overlap began. It doesn't matter throughout that whole time. Once that mark room is owed, if you will, it is retained to and through the rounding. Okay. So 18.2, when a boat is required to give mark room by 18.2b, she shall continue to give room even if at a later time the overlap is broken or a new overlap begins. So basically, once it's established, that mark room shall be granted thereafter. All right. Um, okay. This is a fun
Size of
one.
the zone. So Jim and Mickey had a point saying, according to the new rules guide, the size of the zone is determined by the boat closest to the mark. All right.
Um,
Now you're gonna make us, Jim and
I'm
Mickey.
gonna let you look that one up, Elizabeth.
Yep.
You get
Just
there
let
faster than
me.
me.
Um, if you want to continue on, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Eliz, they're saying it's on page 10.
Of the little one or the big one? I don't have the little one. I only have the big one. So does it give a rule?
Little.
Pardon? Does it?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Jim and Mickey, do you want to turn?
Yep, I see it. I can.
Okay. Cool.
So, well, excellent. I am so happy to hear that already our little sailor's guide to the racing rules are being used and being
Yes.
effective. That's great. Jim and Mickey, thank you for that input. So I misspoke. I was mistaken.
Mhm.
So yeah, good to know. It is the size of the boat, that's closer of the two to the mark, in determining that zone size.
I think if the boats are even, it's the bigger boat. Like if they're approaching at the same time, I think that's where your confusion comes from.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's see. Again, thanks for that. So now we have another scenario. We have boats approaching a leeward mark, both on starboard tack. As they enter the zone, the inside boat hails for room. The outside boat responds, giving them room to round. And then as they get past the mark, the inside boat continues to sail right on past the mark. The outside boat hollers to say, you need to jibe now. And the inside boat says, I'm still on starboard in the leeward boat. I can jibe when I want to. The red boat, after the green boat or inside boat subsequently jibes, then protests, and some more words are exchanged. So,
What? Never.
Yeah, we kept this one G-rated. So whose foul is it in this situation? The red boat, the green boat, neither boat, the pink boat that's not on here? Oh, that's not an option again.
Right, it's not on there. Clay had a good point in the chat, is that maybe just give Mark room to the inside boat regardless of when the overlap starts, rather than debate about the size of the zone. Yes.
Yes, excellent point. Certainly for our purposes, when we are not, Friday nights, I hope I'm safe in saying that we shouldn't consider ourselves as America's Cup sailors or Olympic, you know, racing scenarios here. We should all
Yes.
just play it safe. Um,
Safe and fun.
Safe and fun. Safe is fun. Unsafe is
Indeed.
not fun. I'll put it that way.
All right, here we go. Closing out. We had two boats that said the red boat was at fault. 7 that said the green boat was at fault. 4 said neither one. That was all good. That's just racing. And nobody said both.
Okay, excellent. So here, in this instance, the green boat. Those of you who selected the green boat is it was their foul. You are correct. The red boat has a reason to be upset, right? The green boat has clearly sailed well past the mark, and we have in Rule 18, 18.4 specifically, is jibing. So when an inside overlap boat, right away boat, I'm sorry, an inside overlapped right away boat must jibe at a mark to sail her proper course. And until she jibes, she shall sail no further from the mark than needed to sail that course. So in this instance, the inside boat basically can't be a jerk and sail the other boat off the course, right? You can't go for a joyride reasonably. Everybody has slightly different definitions, perhaps of, or within reason, of how to sail their proper course. But sailing them off the course and well out of the way is a foul.
All right.
Okay.
So now you have a new scenario on the same question.
Yeah. So, oh, okay. So here, I just wanted to actually just kind of quickly show what a proper course, excuse me, would have looked like, or should have looked like. The way to have done this without fouling, right, would be for the green boat to come around and make a clean rounding. You know, it depends on the situation, but certainly within a boat length and a half, I would expect. But you can see the difference here. There's a boat length and a half or 2 boat lengths difference between where the outside boat is able to come out and where they should have been able to. Oops. Okay, so now the next scenario is very similar, but as we see the boats come in here, wind direction still from the top. One boat is on starboard and the outside boat is on port. Okay, so starboard is calling for room and port is saying, hey, you need to jibe now. And starboard says, hey, I'm still on starboard. Don't tell me what to do. I've got right away. All right. So does this change anything? The fact that the 2 boats are on opposite tacks?
Oh, they're coming in. They're coming in. You know, it's always interesting. You know, we can run all these scenarios. This stuff happens really fast.
Yes.
In races. Well, it depends on your boat, I suppose, but a lot of time these things happen in a crowd and rather quickly. Do you have any thoughts about how to communicate more calmly in a situation?
Yeah, I think the best thing, or the thing that leads to the most amount of calm, is early and open communication. You know, again, we're all friends out there on the water, and everybody's trying to avoid contact, etc. The best way to keep things calm is by starting to communicate as early as possible, right? I don't have position 1 or 2 in here, but by position 2, oh, there we go, poll results. We'll come to those in just a second. But by position 2, the red boat should be saying, hey, I'm bearing off, you have plenty of room. Let's not sail past the mark, too far here. Let's please make sure that you jibe and sail the course, right? If you wait, until position 3, it's already too late, and then you've probably been stewing for a little while. So I think, whether it's mast racing or not, communicating with the boats around you is the best path to calm and safe situations.
Cool. All right. So we had, in terms of, does this change anything? We had 3 people who said yes and 12 people who said no.
Okay. So excellent. The correct answer in this case really is no. I don't think we put anything behind this one, other than to discuss it a little bit. The both boats are still sailing the course, right? So the starboard tack boat is the right-of-way boat, but as a racing boat in this race, they are still obligated to round the mark and sail their course. So again, it doesn't really change anything. The red boat still has a foot to stand on if they want to protest and say that the starboard tack boat didn't round as they should have and kind of sailed them off the course.
Great.
Okay. Whoops. Okay. So now next scenario, we have boats approaching a mark. I'll leave it at that. There is no overlap at this time. red boat then is gaining on the black boat, and they establish an overlap and start hailing that they would like to come up, right? So they want to head up. The black boat is not really altering its course yet, and they reply asking, "What mark are you sailing to?" And then in position 3, the red boat is continuing to come up. The black boat responds to avoid contact in this case, and then calls for a protest. Whose foul is it?
Whose foul is it? That's an interesting scenario, and one that it took me a little while to understand when we were reviewing the new rules. So overall, people have been doing very well on these quizzes.
No, it's great to see. Good understanding.
This is a hard one. So we got about 15 more seconds to put your answers in. All right, here we go.
Okay.
So we had, ooh, it's a pretty even split.
Yes.
6 people said the black boat, 5 people said the red boat, and 1 said neither.
Interesting. Okay. So this is an interesting scenario. So in this case, the black boat is correct in hailing for a protest. The red boat could be or would be considered as having fouled in this. The reason for that is the red boat has established an overlap coming from clear astern of the black boat. And the rules, it's actually Rule 17 on the same tack proper course, states that when a boat establishes an overlap from clear astern, they shall then, and while they're sailing within 2 boat lengths of the other boat, they shall not sail above their proper course while they remain overlapped. Okay, I think. Yeah, so leeward boat shall not sail above a proper course while they remain overlapped within that distance, unless in doing so she promptly sails astern. So the only time that, if I can't really do it with the picture that we have, but if there were space enough, if the red boat were further down here and they came up, they could tack behind the black boat and not have been considered a foul. That would not be considered a foul.
Yeah, and when you go back to that one, just to point out that the 2 boat lengths that they're talking about are perpendicular to the windward boat.
Correct.
So, and it's the windward boat's length. So you're making room to the lee of the windward boat of 2 of their own boat lengths, if that makes any sense as I'm describing it. It's a confusing rule. It's the backdoor rule.
It is the backdoor rule.
You can't come through the back door and then push somebody off the course.
Right.
Does anybody have questions about this one? Feel free to turn on your microphone and ask them. And Clay is right. This is not the case in the start sequence. This rule does not exist. You can, that leeward boat can go ahead to wind and push you out of the way if you're the windward boat.
That is correct. Yes. Thank you, Claire.
So Terry and Bob asked, where is the proper course in this case?
Okay. So so as we can see, the mark that both of these boats are going to is located over here, right? So the proper course, now in this there is some interpretation that could be made here, because there could be shifts in wind direction and or puffs involved. But in general, the proper course is going to be sailing to the next mark, right? So clearly at position 2, if you will, can you see my mouse? I'm just,
Yep.
okay. So at position 2, both boats are aimed approximately at the mark to make a port rounding. Okay. In position 3, the red boat comes up, and if I were to draw an extending line, right, they're aimed up here towards the top of the zone, which is, in this case, they're close enough to the mark at this point by my estimation. You know, they're about 6 or 7 boat lengths out there. Um, they're not hunting for a a puff of wind or anything like that. Their proper course really at this point is to be headed to the mark. Hopefully that
Yeah.
helps to make sense.
Any other questions to clarify that? Sounds like we're good.
All right. So the last thing, oh, yep, I did actually have this in here, Clay. There is no proper course before the starting signal, and to add on to that, so right, if an overlap is established from clear astern before the starting signal, and you're in your starting sequence, as Eliz said, and Clay was pointing out, that you can take a boat clear up to head to wind. That said, you still have to give that boat opportunity to do so. Okay, you can't expect them to respond and turn on a dime and come right up into the wind. You have to avoid contact and give them room to do so, to avoid contact as they come up.
Correct.
Okay. So again, you have the right to take them up to head to wind, but don't be a jerk about it. Right.
Maybe
okay.
that's the overreaching thing. Just don't be a jerk about it.
So that's all that I had put together, or we had put together, I should say, for this tonight. But last, as a parting thought, I just want to say, key to MAST racing and keeping it fun is avoiding contact. Do that first, avoid contact first, and then we can figure out whose foul it was anyway. As mentioned earlier, I think certainly the best way to avoid contact is to be aware of all situations when there's potential for contact and avoid it. Take measures, make moves, alter courses, communicate early and often, and avoid those situations entirely. We're all out here for fun. It is beer can racing, not the Olympics, not the America's Cup. Everybody wants to be able to get on their boat again for the rest of the weekend and go cruising or whatever it might be, right? So avoid contact, grab a beer, take a breath, and sort it out, who was wrong afterwards, once everybody is safe and out of harm's way. Thank you everybody for joining and participating. Hopefully you got to glean a little new information out of this. I guess we can keep it open for questions for a little while, Eliz.
Yeah, absolutely. We have time. I'm going to.
I have a question. Can you review one more time what our protest process is, please?
Yeah.
Allow me to pull up that while Jay is vamping for time. And, I'll be able to answer that more specifically. Go, Jay, and vamp for time.
So I would say I believe our protest process is, first and foremost, you have to notify the other boat that's involved in the incident. If you are the protester, you first should hail the other boat, notifying them that you're protesting. You should put a red protest flag up and make it visible.
We don't do the protest flags.
Not required.
Not required.
But so communicate to the other boat, and then the other boat, depending on the foul that's involved, can take a 1 turn or a 2 turn penalty.
It's
and
2 turns.
If two turns, unless it's a hitting a mark.
Correct.
Right. So if they choose not to, if they feel that they are not in the wrong, then the protest should be registered with the race committee after the race or as soon as possible after the incident. And then the race committee will report that into, I was going to say the race chair, but I guess me. So, report that into me, and we have a committee of experts that would review the situation, contact those that were involved and anybody who might have witnessed the situation, and we can assign a, I guess it's a points-based penalty, right? It can be points
After the fact, if somebody didn't take the turns,
right.
then it can be points. It can be a drop in place.
Position.
It could be really anything that the race committee reviewing it sees fit. It's kind of open to that. Yeah, so it basically says maybe subject to a penalty within the sole discretion of the race committee. So
Okay.
let me just review. If you think you're followed, you avoid avoid contact, not eye contact. Take a deep breath. Remember, we were all here to have fun. Hail the boat with protest and the boat name if you can hear it, or a sail number if you can't. Oh, this is a very good thing. The committee boats are not on the water referees. Their only job is to write down that somebody made a protest. Doing it on the VHF radio, saying protest and the boat name is helpful because sometimes you can't do that. If you have a red flag, go ahead and do that, but it's not required. And then if the other person took their turns, cool, leave it alone. It's all done. But if they didn't, then notify either the committee boat as you go by at the finish, or email Jay or one of the other members of the race committee, and then race committee will take it from there. Did I get all of it, Terry?
Yep, thank you.
Mostly. Let's go out and have fun and try not to have this situation arise.
Yep.
But should it arise, try to stay calm and
Grab a beer, take a deep breath, and we'll sort it out afterwards.
right.
Yep.
Right.
All right. Any other questions?
Although one thing that I did want to point out is that it is possible for the committee boat, the race committee, or other boats to call foul when they see it. So especially in the case of barging, if you see it, you can call it.
Yes.
But you have to see it. It's not a hearsay sort of situation. Like, I heard they did a terrible job. No. Any other questions? Greg had a very good point early on, is that it's everybody's responsibility to avoid contact.
Yes. Yeah. Good point. That's the biggest thing. Knowing the rules helps keep us out of contact with one another while we're out there, and if there's a debate about the rules, avoid contact first and go from there.
Hey guys, we get to go racing on Friday.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting. Are you coming out with us maybe on Friday for committee boat?
I am. I plan to take you up on that. Yes.
Excellent.
Yep,
excellent.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing everybody on the water. It's exciting. It seems like it's come up so quickly, but hope everybody's, or I should say, I wish everybody the best in getting their boats prepared and ready, and seeing you on the water.
Fantastic. All right. Have
Thanks
a good
a lot.
night, everybody.